Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Grebner Show. This is Scott Kerker, along with Metamore head coach Jared Grebner. Coach, good to get back on the winning track again, isn't it?
It's always real nice to get some more wins underneath your belt, especially with an exciting game like that when the kids play so hard. It's always nice to get the W.
We'll get to the individual guys here in a little bit, but I thought Friday night, a Morton team that comes in, another big team. They had some big guys up front. And like we said before we went on air, we're the smallest team in the conference size-wise, so everybody's going to look huge. But I thought they looked really big. And, they were, I believe they came in at 1-2. But they, like we also just said, they played some really tough opponents. Their two losses were, two playoff teams. They got beat by Mohammed Seymour and by Rochelle. Nothing you were going to do was probably going to intimidate them. They've been through the wars already in the season, and they're a little bit. Came in a little bit salty, and that's kind of what you expected.
Yeah, it's a team that. They're fighting, and we knew they were going to get their best shot. They've played a ground and pound team in Rochelle. They played a team that kind of spreads you out and uses the entire field in Mohammed Seymour. So they've seen it all defensively. They've seen some real aggressive defenses with Mohammed Seymour and stuff like that too. So they've kind of run the gamut there, and they came in hungry. We knew that we would have to play with good pad level. They had some big guys up front. You mentioned sometimes, we get outweighed and outsized up front, but the thing about our guys is, you can never measure on, what's on the inside. And they play with such tenacity, with such grit, sometimes in a high motor, and those are things that that competitiveness that you just can't teach, and to have them be able to compete play after play, down after down, whether it's on the offensive side or defensive side, they believe in what we're teaching. We believe in them and their abilities, and it just goes to show that if you continue to work as a team, that things will go your way if you just believe in one another and trust in the guy beside you.
Defensively, we gave up 37 points. We win 40-37. But I thought your team played pretty well defensively. We had a lot of guys during the game go down, go to that MASH tent that you've got now, and I think we need to put a red cross on the top of it. But
I prefer not to. I'd rather just keep the Redbird there and just not have any more injuries.
But you got a new trainer this year, and she's been, she's been busy.
Yeah, and unfortunately, she has been busy. But Jessica, she's kind of an unsung hero.
Her name is
Jessica Brooks.
Okay.
But Jessica does a wonderful job for us. She is, like I said, an unsung hero for us on Friday. Giving us updates, getting guys retaped or whatever it might be, and. She's just great with the players, great with us coaches, communicates well. Metamore is lucky to have her as a great addition to the school. For sure. So she's been wonderful for us.
And, during that game, there were times where, we had guys out. You were having to go to your third and fourth strings. I thought those guys did a nice job coming in and filling in for your guys that were injured. I thought it was one of the most gutty performances I've seen in a long time. We've had other guys, other teams that were, played gutty, and I don't want to take anything away from anybody else, but when you have that many guys go down with pretty severe injuries, and then guys go down with cramps, and the fact that it didn't matter, your kids, when they needed to make a stop at the end of the ball game, they reached down deep and they made a stop. And as a coach, you had to be awfully proud of your kids.
Of course. You're sitting there probably at the beginning of the game thinking it could be a defensive battle. I mean, it was, 7-0 at the end of the first quarter. We got a late score off Cotes. So you're like, man, not many points are up on the board or anything yet. And all of a sudden, man, we're going back and forth, with one another. But those guys just continued to step up. Sophomores step up into new roles. Grady Neal stepped up in there. Keon Allen stepped in there. Riley Jackson, he was stepping in there, and Gavin Ryan, he went in there, and but I told the guys that's what being team's all about.
That's being right.
That's why everybody practices, whether it's as a starter, whether it's as a second team guy, whether it's as a scout team guy. Everything you do has a purpose. Everything you do should have intent to it. You should have some intent to make yourself better, to make your team better, and that kind of showed on Friday night where everybody's purpose in practice, the weight room, or whatever it might be, had the ability to show off what they could do, because you never know when your number's going to be called. And just on top of that, I mean, you had guys going in on special teams also that were the backups and that you weren't thinking of, like Saul Swanson, Keon Allen was going in there as well, McAllister, and so there's a whole bunch of guys that in Metamorph football players that make it work. And I know I'm leaving people off, but that's why it takes an entire team to perform up to our standards. The kids have set a really high standard for the Metamorph football team, and they did exactly what Metamorph football teams and what Metamorph football players do, and that's to be ready when their number's called for the good of the team.
Yeah, it was. I was awfully proud of the effort and of course the result.
Yes.
But knowing how many kids had come out, how many times did poor Cam Nickel ding his shoulder. We know that he's got a little bit of a ding there, and he'd come out, he'd get fixed, he'd go back in. I mean, it must have come out 2 or 3 different times, and he still came in. At the end of the game, he was in there, and I believe he made a really big play. I think it was on the 3rd down when we stopped him at maybe our 35-yard line, something like that.
He's a gutsy kid.
Oh, he's gamer.
He's a 3-year starter. He's a senior captain. He wants to be out there with his teammates. And there's a lot of guys like Cam on the team as well, but he's kind of leading by example. And so I'm proud of not only Cam, but the rest of the guys on their team, for stepping up when necessary. Sure,
and they made some awfully nice plays. On the other side of the ball, your offense. I thought possibly your best offensive night of the year. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, we were able to be explosive when necessary. We were able to get some timely runs. It was nice to see some of those explosive plays go. We had the first one with Eden, but that's the thing. When it wasn't like a long pass play, it was an intermediate route, and he was able to slip a tackle. But when you have guys with that type of ability out in space, you're bound and determined to break one of those. And Eden did just that. We were able to hit another play on a long 4th down, and Eden went down and got it. It was actually a perfectly placed ball where only Eden could catch that one. We hit another long one in stride, right to Mark, kind of fell down on the 2-yard line, like kind of lost his balance there. But there were some of those big explosive plays all over. Evan Kyle had another big long run where he bent it back towards the visiting sideline, which was a beautiful run. And then we had the ability where we were just starting to punish some people up front and start having some bruising runs, whether it was getting the touchdown. There's one where we're going towards the north, and Petrie just lowered his shoulder a little bit and used his bruising body to pick up a couple extra yards. And so I think the line's starting to, like we talked about, I think they're sick and tired of people saying, well, we kind of have an inexperienced line, or there's a new line in there.
Now, they're small and they can't.
And I think they're kind of sick and tired of hearing that, which I don't blame them. And they just get after it.
Yeah.
They do what's expected of them, and they're working with what they got, and they're all starting to come together and realizing what their capabilities are as not just individuals, but as a unit of 5 up there that makes us tick.
The drive that I was really impressed with, you got the ball back on about our 15-yard line with 4 minutes and 31 seconds to go in the half. I think you were up maybe 1 point at the time.
Yes, it was 21-20, I believe.
Yep. And you put together a drive, and it wasn't any, I don't know if you had any big gainers in there. I know there was once a second or maybe a 1st and 20 on a holding penalty. You overcame that with ease.
And then we got another one once we got it to about midfield. Then we got an unsportsmanlike that backed us up 15 on that exact same drive.
Yeah, but that was after a play, so it moved it back, made it like a 1st and 15,
Correct.
or 1st and 5, or 1st and 10 again.
Yes.
But I thought your line did an unbelievable job. You were throwing the ball. You were nickel and diming it all the way down the field. You get down to about the 10-yard line, and I thought Coach Dolinsky made just an unbelievable play. They're sitting there waiting for us to throw the ball to somebody. They had their backers spread out. You send your son Avery in motion to the left, and you come back with a give to Evan Cowell to the right side, and he kind of shrugged off somebody just reached out with their hand, barely got touched, and just kind of waltzed in from the 10-yard line for a touchdown. And he did that with 5.5 seconds to go in the first half. Absolutely beautiful drive. You could not have asked for anything. Maybe leave them with 5 seconds or 2 seconds to go in, but that was it.
Yeah.
It was just great.
It was real nice. One, we were able to kill some clock, keep the drive going. 2, we were able to score, put points up on the board. Like I said, we overcame some adversity, and we were able to go the length of the field. The one thing that our kids are starting to understand is when you get into those moments where there's 3 minutes on the clock and it gets down to 2 minutes, not everything has to be rushed. 2 minutes is actually a really long time.
Yes.
By time that the clock stops for first downs, whether you're getting out of bounds. So 2 minutes can be a really long time that we don't have to be, so fast that we're out of control. And our kids are starting to understand that, even down by the goal line, Steven had a real nice scramble. Didn't try and do too much, stayed within himself and got out of bounds over there on the visiting sideline. Yep. And so our kids are playing smart football. They're understanding scenarios. They're understanding where they need to be. And they're all playing with one another for one common goal. But those offensive coaches, they've been doing a great job. It's something that they've practiced. But Coach Dolinsky continues to call great games as always, and did a great job on that drive as well.
I thought that particularly in that drive, he you can tell that when you did that at the high school level, that just doesn't come. That's been practiced. That's been, those kids were very comfortable moving the ball down. They got within, under a minute, and it was almost surgical the way they moved the ball down the field and then get us in a position. And you left yourself with one timeout, and that's probably why you felt comfortable running the ball in that situation.
It is a little bit different, when you don't have any in your back pocket or anything like that, but knowing that, hey, we got a timeout still left to use, that always, provides a little safety net where it opens up the playbook a little bit more. And so that does put you at ease a little bit.
Two things I thought were huge in that game. First of all, you mentioned I thought Stephen Petrie had maybe his best game as a varsity quarterback.
He had probably his most complete game. I know he threw for some yards up at Sterling and stuff like that. He had some yards rushing versus LaSalle Peru, but this was probably his best combo game as far as being a dual threat. We always know he's been able to be a dual threat, but as far as I guess putting up numbers that represent that through the air and on the ground.
And I'm just guessing here. You would know more than me about this, but when you drive 85 yards and you have 4 minutes and 31 seconds to do it and you score with 5.5 seconds to go, you've got a quarterback in there. So you've got to have a quarterback in there that's calm, a great leader, and he had to have been all of that. A great leader, a calming influence, and someone that the rest of the team has confidence in.
Oh, they all do. Steven's a great leader. He's always been that. He just commands, that respect in the huddle. They all listen to him. He can even have moments where he keeps it lighter. He knows when it's time to get down to business, and when maybe the kids need to relax a little bit, and he can be a little funny. He can say something just to lighten the mood and get people just to settle in and feel at ease. And so he kind of knows what the team needs, and so he's dialed in not only as the play caller and dealing with the X and O's, but just with the personnel as well.
The other person that I thought stepped up and just played an outstanding game was your son, Avery. Great article in the paper, I believe, on Thursday about the two of you.
Yes.
That was nice. And then, Petrie, I believe he had some leg cramps.
Yes.
So your son had to step in and play quarterback at crucial parts in that second half. He steps in, and it's third and about 9, and I believe he picked up about 15 yards on his first play. Then he came back, and it was all speed. And then he came back again a little bit later on. Again, Petrie had some leg issues, and I believe he picked up about 9 yards, and he had to break a couple tackles. But that was a kid that just, his will to win was better than Morton's on that play.
I think Steven, if I remember correctly, it was right at the end of the third quarter. Avery might have come in at the end of the third quarter and then started with the fourth. But we're fortunate that he's able to go in there and understand the offense. It's not like he gets a lot of reps there at quarterback, but he played it as a freshman. Played it a little bit as a sophomore, but really that's the last time he's seen any type of game action. But he does a good job of understanding the game of football. He knows what the team needed at that moment. The linemen and backs and everybody, the tight ends, they put them in a position to pick up those needed yards. But we're fortunate to keep that drive going and pick up 2 big first downs at some crucial parts. And after the one, that's when Jimmy went and right on the left-hand side down the sideline and then bent it back towards the visitor sideline for that score.
Big touchdown.
Which was a big touchdown. And so, to keep the drive alive in order to get that score was a big moment in the game.
Yeah, it was, with Jadon just now starting to come back, and I'm sure he'll become more and more of a factor, but it's such a luxury to have a guy like Evan Kyle, who you call Jimmy. Yes. He comes in and just, man, he has been fantastic for you this year.
Yeah, and we knew coming in we had a dual threat back there as far as 2 horses in the stable, so to speak, between Evan and Jadon. Those 2 were both back there last year, but they both work extremely hard. But that's why Evan's a senior captain, because the kids know how much he works. It's shown in the weight room. It's shown on the field. It shows during track season. I mean, so everything he does, he's had a purpose to it, and it's all kind of led up to this moment. And so I don't even want to say that Evans filled in for Jadon or anything like that, because they're both good. They're both special in their own rights, and we're lucky to have both of them.
Yeah, very, very lucky. And we'll talk about your other receiver when we get back after the break, but you had another guy that had a very special night. Like I said, we'll talk about him a little later, but I look at your offensive line, and we've touched on it a little bit. You said your line could be very good by the end of the year. It was just going to take a little bit of time, and there's going to be a little bit of growing pains. You said that early on, and I think your line is starting to get pretty decent. They made some nice holes for your backs the other night.
They made some great strides. Very pleased where they are. I think they know that they still have some more growing to do. I mean, the thing is, I don't think any kid on the team would say they don't have some more growing to do. If none of them think that we've peaked yet. We all think that there's room to grow.
Which is good.
Yes. And so with that room for growth comes for all that work in practice to make us even better, to keep pushing forward for even greater success as the year goes along.
Yeah, I've been impressed with your freshman 58, which is
Evan Grove.
Evan Grove. He's come a long way.
Yeah.
That's got to be awfully intimidating to be out there on a varsity field with the bright lights.
The thing is, I don't even think of him as a freshman. He's another Metamore football player out there. He wears the same helmet, wears the same jersey. I haven't even thought of him as being a freshman really since the summer. I mean, I really haven't, because he just fits in. He blends in with the guys, and you don't really notice any difference. He works just as hard. He realizes nothing's going to be given to him, and those guys keep pushing each other to be the best versions of themselves every single day. And he's learning from the seniors and the upperclassmen. He continues to always take mental notes, mental reps, even when he's not in there, and so he's just going to continue to make great gains.
But he still needs a ride to practice.
Yes, he does. That he does. A lot of them still do at the underclass level, but that's what good teammates are for.
Yeah. And then the other guy that I kind of want to throw a little bit of praise out to is Landon Culper. He's, I think you've only got 2 seniors on your offensive line.
Correct.
And he's one of them, and he's your biggest, and he's done a nice job for you. And I'm sure he's been a nice leader for some of those younger guys.
Correct. He's one of our 2 senior linemen. The other one's Owen Cleland. But Landon's the only guy that's returning up front. Happens to be our biggest guy too. Landon just gets it. Very quiet. He just does his job and leads by example. But he's starting to get more comfortable where if something needs to be said, he'll say it, but he does a lot of teaching. He'll pull somebody off to the side when it's appropriate, talk to him about just some little ins and outs or footwork or just communication things that they could do better. But Landon's a great senior to have. Again, that's why he's the senior captain. We got 4 great senior captains. I know I've said that a lot tonight, talking about some of these guys, but those 4 captains, a lot was put on their shoulder. We've expected a lot of our captains, and that's why Landon and those guys fit that role very well.
Coach, why don't we take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the player of the game, Canton a little bit, and the rest of the Mid-Illini Conference.
Central Illinois, you asked for it and we listened. Germantown Grill is growing to meet customer demand, adding more dining space and a private gaming area featuring games powered by Gold Rush, the gold standard in video gaming. And Germantown Grill still has all the food and spirits that keep our customers coming back. stop by to check out our daily specials. The game's on at Germantown Grill, where Central Illinois loves to eat. Open 7 days a week, just off Route 116.
Welcome back to the Jared Grebner Show. Before we go on, I still want to thank Jake and Sarah Atkins for allowing us to do the show from the Germantown Grill. Had dinner before we did this here tonight. I want to thank them. It's always great to be here. It's great to come here after the games, too.
Yeah, it's a wonderful spot to be. I know a lot of people come here after the games, players, family members. And
your family?
Yep. They're always
whole
here.
Section of them.
Yep. And so we always thank them for all their support for Metamora football and just the Metamora community in general.
Coach, we talked a little bit about who we were going to name as the player of the game, and Eden Cote, you brought his name up. He got us on the scoreboard and then got a big touchdown later in the game on a 4th and about 15, I think it seemed like. But he had a great game. The first touchdown, it was a broken tackle after he caught the ball. Like you said, it was only designed to go about 10 yards, but it ended up going about 77 for a touchdown. And boy, when he gets into the open, he's gone.
Yeah, that's the one thing that we've always said about putting our athletes in space and using them. We know that we have guys on the perimeter and guys in the backfield that can do some special things, and Eden's one of them. That's for sure. We talked kind of about this after the game Friday night, that there's a lot of different people that can get the ball on any certain play or any certain night might be their night. And Eden stepped up, and it was his night, and we expect it to be his night even more as the season goes on. But he made a great move off the very first catch to get that long touchdown to get us on the scoreboard. Made another great catch for a second touchdown when he went down and picked the ball off the turf. But Eden's a really good athlete, has good hands. He can be really good when he locks in, and he was sure locked in on Friday night. I'm excited to see more of that as the season goes along. He's done a great job for us, and I'm looking for even greater things, because he just keeps raising the bar for himself with every game and with every practice, as he feels more comfortable in his role, and we can start utilizing everybody, and Eden's just another one of those weapons that we have.
He's done a great job so far, and it's I was glad that we found somebody that's maybe not, the big name that you would, think about making the player of the game every week. But when a guy has a really good game like that, and it's nice to kind of reward him and have his name mentioned, in the coach's show.
Yeah, I mean, he's worked hard for it. He's deserved it. And so all those honors, so to speak, they are all well deserved. There's always going to be people's names that get left out. We always try and throw their name out there, but Eden's definitely one that hasn't been talked about probably enough this season, whether it's special teams. He even jumps in at corner, did last year for us when we needed him, and he continues to improve as a wide receiver, and that just showed on Friday night.
You got it's homecoming week this week, and you've got a pretty gamey Canton team coming in. They haven't won a game yet, but man, they gave East Peoria, who's now 4-0, but they gave East Peoria everything they wanted.
That was just one of the, we were talking beforehand, Canton had a little hook and ladder, at the very end of the game, and got tackled, at the half-yard line probably as time expired, and so ended up 33-30. And so, Canton was really close in that first win. So they're itching to get that win.
Oh, for sure.
Their coach is itching to get that win, and so they're big. They got athletes, and so they're gonna try and come in, ruin our homecoming. That's always, a goal as the opposition coming in to that, but we got to just stay focused, make sure that we get better, that we continue to grow as a football team, that we continue to take that next step, because the best is yet to come.
Yep. Good to see that. Canton over the last few years has been a tough team to read. They've knocked us off in the last 6 or 7 years. So if you don't come to play, they're the type of team that can beat you. You've got some guys out this week, and which is kind of a little bit of a luxury. And the old Metamore adage, just next man up. You got to come in and play, and I have no doubt that the guys that you are playing this week will have good games.
Yeah. That's what we expect from every one of our players. We talked about that earlier in the show with the Morton game about getting new guys in there. And so anybody that's required to step in on Friday night, they'll be ready to go. And the thing is, everybody on the team will have complete confidence in them, from players to coaches and to themselves, because they know what they're capable of, and we're looking forward to seeing what those individuals can do. We're looking forward to getting out there and being able to have the opportunity to play the game of football again on a Friday night in front of our great Metamore fans, and hopefully great weather.
Yeah, for sure. Any surprises so far in the Mid-Atlantic?
No, not really. You always kind of know, people had a feeling of some of the top teams that are going to shake out, and where people are going to fall. East Peoria, people, I think we're kind of interested in them with their new coach, seeing how they were going to be. They're 4-0.
But they had some pieces last year.
Yeah, they did. I mean, they have some big guys. They had some wide receivers. They have some guys coming back.
Quarterback that can throw.
And so, Coach Durley himself, he's no, he was a pretty good quarterback himself.
Yeah.
He wasn't too shabby throwing the ball. I think he still might have the NCAA record for most yards in one game. I think he threw that versus like Knox College or something like that. But I mean, so he knows how to chuck that ball around. But they're 4-0. Washington continuing to play well. Pekin, them in Washington was a great game last week, and so it's kind of muddled up top. You still got Dunlap sitting there with one loss. You have Morton with one loss, and so when you start looking at all
one loss in the conference.
Correct. Yeah, we're just talking about the conference now. But when you start looking at these teams, you're like, man, there's a lot of one-loss teams that kind of have to shake themselves out. Right now, you have East Peoria sitting undefeated. You have Washington sitting undefeated. But things are just going to take time. And I told our kids it's going to be tough to win in the Mid-Atlantic. You can't take any team lightly. That's kind of how the Mid-Atlantic is. And so every game is going to be a battle, and you're going to have to come ready to play, because if you don't, that other team across from you will make you pay.
Yeah, that's kind of that prepares you well for the playoffs. And hard to believe we're going into week 5 already.
It goes by faster and faster. Everybody always says it does, but man, it truly does.
It's a blink of an eye, and you're halfway through the season, and that's the sad part of it, But Coach, homecoming week, it's always nice to have homecoming. It's always kind of a special week. Parade, all the other things that go along with homecoming. You got to go out and get a win.
Yep.
And good luck Friday.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate all you do.
No problem. That'll do it for the Jared Grebner Show this week. We'll see you Friday night at Malone for homecoming.